So Graham's been studying some of the insects that are found at Knepp using these traps. These are called interception traps. He's got these all over the site and he's been looking at what beetles and other insects he can find in them. We just are in the process of taking this one down. So Graham, can you talk us through how these work then?
Yeah, I'm just cutting that off there. So we, these 4 veins here, if you've ever seen a moth trap, it's a bit like the top of a moth trap. These 4 perspex veins, any insect flying into them is going to bounce off and the majority of them will fall into the funnel. There's a bit of mesh in the top of there to stop bats going in, because that has happened historically, not with me, but I've heard about it. And then at the bottom here there's a killing jar with a collecting fluid in, which I've just took away, and that's where the invertebrates go. I tend to use a non-toxic antifreeze because that's a really good sort of safe way of doing it, sort of like propylene glycol. Key thing is you need to come and change them every 2 weeks.
Okay.
So from May the 12th, I've been changing them at least every 2 weeks, and this is the last session. So
they'll be here from May until September?
Yeah, yeah.
Because the key thing with a lot of these insects that are associated with dead and decaying wood is that if you're not using traps like this, you will never find them. You know, they might be only around as adults for a week, sometimes less, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you can leave these up in place for months and then you're going to get a good representation of what things are found here. So a superb way of like sampling the saproxylic insects in a certain place.
One of the things that's been really good as well is coming and collecting these every 2 weeks is I've found quite a lot of good stuff just taking the traps down. So this tree particularly has been a really good one. Back in May and June particularly, as you're sort of sorting the trap out, you look down and there's rhinoceros beetles crawling over here.
Oh,
there's
brilliant.
Ant beetles. I mean, you can see all this frass from Platypus cylindricus, the oak pinhole borer, which has been, as the summer has progressed, this trunk has just become like plastered in sawdust. It was just a tiny bit on this limb back in May. And I mean, it's rare to find a tree in the perfect state of decay like this one is. I mean, it's very recently come down. It's very, you know, it's still got a lot of the bark on, but this is just the perfect feast for so many different invertebrates. So this tree particularly, that trap particularly, has been really, really productive. Yeah,
because it's quite unusual to see this sort of thing where you can see all this obvious activity, you know, on these trees. Often there'll be a lot of things under the bark, but to see all this frass and all this wood dust everywhere, that's quite unusual. So obviously this tree is in a superb location, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, brilliant.
For all sorts of different things.
And actually one of the best days we had doing the surveys, we had a nighttime session in early June on a really warm night. And we came around looking, torching on the tree trunks and found loads of really nice saproxylics, like things like that smart clarid I've shown you, Pilo mollis, loads and loads of longhorn beetles that you don't normally see so often in the daytime. Yeah. And a lot more predatory things like the ant beetles, which were quite numerous, and Callidium elongatum, which is naturally scarce, which predates this thing. So
because it's important to point out, you know, these things that we can see the evidence of here now, you know, these have all their own predators and parasitoids, don't they? Yeah. So this is just one species, but then, you know, there's a whole network of the species associated with just this one.
And if you only eat invertebrates that are saproxylic, then you in turn are also considered to be saproxylic.
Even though you're not there for the wood or the fungi. What else is there? Yeah, but it's an easy habitat to overlook, isn't it? You know, you might think, you know, something like this looks a bit, oh, well, let's get rid of that.
Well, you look how many idioms there are that involve dead wood, like clearing out dead wood. I mean, it is by definition something that we've come to see as of having no value other than for firewood. Where actually, the best thing people can do is, if they really want to help our woodlands, is take a bit of live, healthy wood for the fire and leave the dead wood.
I think times are changing a little bit, aren't they? I think people are starting to recognise the importance of this sort of habitat. Historically, you know, this sort of habitat was seen to be, you know, pretty pointless, wasn't it? You know, people would just get rid of dead wood, you know, burn it or whatever else. But I think times are maybe changing a little bit, aren't they? I think.
Definitely. In some places, like so here at Knepp, you know, there's 10 or 20 years ago, I imagine if this big tree came down over a path before the project started, the path, it would have been at least cleared up, at least the pathway cut through it. I mean, a big tree like this is such a vital habitat for so many things, and this will keep being an important habitat for decades to come. You know, the best thing you can do is leave it and move the path if you can, and move the track. That's something that is clearly is changing here, but still in the wider landscape, it's a big problem. And I've been involved in surveys where one part of an estate's paying you to do a survey on dead wood, and another part's chopping up the dead wood. You know, so it's amazing how much it is still a problem.